we favor releasing the entire interview to the public unredacted. And what I have been saying to Comer, to the team, to the Republicans, is let's make this a completely transparent process. Everything that Bill Barr said to us, the public should be allowed to hear. And that not should just be the case for Bill Barr, but for every other person that's coming in front of us at this committee. As long as we are protecting any victims or those who have been harmed, that should be made public information. And yes, look, Bill Barr himself, well, I can't get into details of what he said. He didn't say anything that slows down this investigation, that somehow clears Donald Trump and of not being in the files or of not being involved in some way in what we're investigating. And he certainly didn't somehow get us off track in our mission to get the truth to the American public. And so we've got other depositions ahead of us, but the single most important thing is the release of those files. Now, this Friday is going to be significant. We should have those files today, by the way. So that in of itself is problematic. This
that deadline was a suggestion, it seems.
Right. And so, look, getting the files Friday is going to be very important. Now, what we actually get, how the White House chooses to actually release these files, we're going to have a very critical eye on. We have a lot of incredible lawyers and researchers and committee members that are all on guard on Friday to get those files and go through them immediately. But that's going to be the beginning of a process of hopefully getting justice for the victims and getting the truth for the American public.
James Comer's spokesperson responded today to you. They said you're trying to invent a crisis where none exists. And at the end, they said former Attorney General Bill Barr testified that he never saw any evidence suggesting President Trump committed a crime. Now, they're being very specific about committing a crime, but are they lying in that statement based on what you heard?
Without actually commenting on exactly that statement, I will say that's a very creative crafting of a statement. And I think that if they have nothing to hide, they should release the complete transcript or video of the Bill Barr deposition. So let's do that. And let's let the American public make their own judgments. I also think it's important to know that Bill Barr is handpicked along with other Trump administration officials that the Republicans actually want to bring in. We have been saying, where's Alex Acosta? The person that knows more about Jeffrey Epstein, about the sweetheart deal that Acosta helped create, about what's actually in the documents, in the records, the person that navigated and knows more about this than maybe any single living person in the United States is Acosta. And so what is James Comer and the Republicans trying to hide in not sending a subpoena to Alex Acosta? And I've told the Oversight Committee and I've told Comer himself that if they choose to not be proactive in that Acosta subpoena, Democrats will work to force a vote on Republicans in the Oversight Committee when we get back from this recess.
Congressman, you and I have been in this conversation and at this table on this subject for a little bit now, and it is always a special treat for me personally to have the conversation. But I have to, I'm sitting here and I'm having a hard time, sir. You talk about the statement from Comer being a creative crafting of a statement. In that statement, he says former Attorney General Bill Barr testified that he never saw any evidence of suggesting President Trump committed a crime. The question then was, well, is that true? The response is, oh, well, I can't speak to that. Well, Comer did. They did.
Sure, well,
so my point is, sir, either that is a true statement, right, coming from the somebody who's got power in committee chairmanship and oversight in these matters, or it isn't. And I guess the point I want to get to is, at this stage, who gives a damn? I mean, because putting out statements and going at these guys when they are crafting statements that are much more creative and much more on point than what we hear from Democrats driving their message that Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong. His name is all over the Epstein files. And he's done nothing wrong. This is all a hoax. It's all a witch hunt. That narrative continues to stick. So my question boils down to, when are you guys going to break an egg? When are you absolutely going to just crack this thing open and hold these folks accountable for the stuff they're doing? This dance around on the Epstein files by the House Judiciary Committee and the leadership and all that is BS. And the base knows it. And people across the country know it. So then help us understand how you unlock this, because statements aren't going to do it at this point.
Agree with you. Two things. Number one, we're supportive, and we want the complete transcript of all these interviews, not just this one, but all the future ones made available to the public immediately. So we're pushing on that. That's something that we want to do. And that if Comer does not agree, then we're going to have to be much more aggressive in getting information out in ways that Comer and Republicans right now are not prepared for. The second piece of it is this, and it's just as important. The files themselves are going to start coming to the committee on Friday. And so until we get our hands on what the actual files say and then what the deposition is saying to corroborate information, that is going to be incredibly important. And I am with you. This is an incredibly frustrating moment that we know the White House is involved in this massive cover-up. But we also, Republicans didn't want the files to be released. We had to force, Democrats had to force Republicans.
But claiming that he personally reviewed prison video which showed no one entering the cell. And with Epstein dead, prosecutors turned to a co-conspirator who might have benefited from that original Florida case being shut down, what I told you about. They went ahead and indicted Ghislaine Maxwell for helping Epstein's sex trafficking, a case brought by a career prosecutor, Maureen Comey, daughter of former FBI Director Comey. And her work continued on when the Biden administration took over. She won Maxwell's conviction and this 20-year prison sentence. Then, during the 2024 campaign, the questions and theories about Epstein's crimes and special treatment were heating up on the right. It was a problem for Trump, given that he promoted the original prosecutor, that he oversaw the DOJ, which failed to answer questions or have transparency about whatever happened in that prison cell. So Trump tried to go on offense, vowing to declassify and release Epstein's files. And his attorney general took over that message and advanced it in office, now infamously claiming that she had the client list on her desk, which she later contradicted because shortly after, the DOJ released an alternate video from the prison. But the key video that shows Epstein's cell door is either lost or hidden. It's never been released. And Bondi released the now infamous memo that said they wouldn't provide any other Epstein documents. So Bondi went from saying there was a client list to there wasn't. She was lying then or lying now. The DOJ memo then said there was no other Epstein info that was going to be released, which ignited that firestorm of criticism we all lived through. And given the broken vows, that couldn't hold. Trump soon contradicted his own DOJ's memo and saying he would try to get grand jury material released, but those are limited transcripts. A lot of the big Epstein information is in the Trump DOJ. They could release it anytime. One judge has denied this. And as the Trump administration's contradicting claims drew more heat on its secrecy, the DOJ then sent this former Trump criminal defense attorney to interview Maxwell in prison and then transferred her to a better prison, an apparent reward for the one person doing any time for Epstein's indicted federal crimes. In July, Trump's DOJ also fired the top prosecutor who won the case against Maxwell, Comey, an unusual ousting of a career prosecutor with no public explanation. So what does this timeline show? That Epstein got help and special treatment and sometimes unlawful benefits from the very federal government that claimed to be investigating him. It happened under the Bush administration, with officials later promoted by Trump. The Trump DOJ only picked up the case in the first term after journalists reported those revelations. Epstein's unusual death met with total secrecy by the first Trump term, and the prosecutor who busted Epstein's co-conspirator ousted in the second term, while Trump and other officials made false, sometimes knowingly false statements about this public history. This is a damning account of President Trump's approach to this case in government. Now, this is a serious governing problem for President Trump and the DOJ and obviously the impacted victims. Even if we learn nothing else about this, it's an open scandal for this administration. And then there are the glaring and inconvenient facts that go back even further before Trump was in government. before the lengthy timeline we just saw. Because as a civilian, Trump had a long relationship with Epstein, who had bought property near Mar-a-Lago, socializing with Trump, engaging in activities, and both men then referring to Epstein's sexual controversies. The two men partied together. They appeared in public and before cameras. This is footage from a Mar-a-Lago event in 1992. Epstein went to Trump's wedding in 1993. And while Trump famously likes his own jet with Trump branding, he found the time and reasons to fly on Epstein's private jet at least 7 times, per the New York Times. Trump photographed with both Epstein and Maxwell in 2000, again at Mar-a-Lago. And the Journal reported about how Trump drew those bawdy sexual references in a birthday card for Epstein, citing, quote, wonderful secrets. Trump denies this and is suing the Journal over it. He now claims his Epstein friendship was shorter than reported, that they clashed over an employee Epstein had poached from Mar-a-Lago, while other accounts say Epstein was a Mar-a-Lago member until 2007, over a year after that original indictment we showed you. Trump breaking the vow to release more Epstein files, but he's also in them, according to recent Journal reporting. And as for Epstein, he was secretive about any time that the two men might have spent with minors when pressed under oath.
You ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
Legally, these social links alone are not evidence of a crime. They are evidence of a conflict of interest, the kind of link that requires a judge or prosecutor.
In politics, perception is reality, at least for some people enough of the time. That means that even if something isn't fully true, even if it's, wrong or just partially true, it can still take you down. And right now, the perception around Trump, and I think this could also maybe be real, but certainly the perception is that he's, with the timeline around Maxwell, he's making a deal with her. Whether it's she is, threatening him, saying, I have dirt, I have this, I have that on you and or people you'd like to protect. And so you need to start giving me things starting, for example, this hypothetically, but as a hypothetical example, get me out of this really bad prison and send me to the relatively nice one, right? Maybe that's the first step of this. Maybe they're still talking pardons, whatever, right? Or there was an open effort by Trump and his team to explicitly reach out to Maxwell and say, look, whether or not you have dirt on me, you can improve your situation and maybe even score clemency, a pardon, a reduced sentence, what have you, and nicer jail, which has been delivered. If you come out and say, I did nothing wrong. If you come out and say, I did nothing wrong, if you never saw me and Epstein together at any of the incriminating events, and maybe that's true, maybe that's not, but you just need to say it, and you need to say it publicly, maybe say it under oath if that serves my purpose. And if you do that, we'll make it worth your while. Of course, again, that's speculation, but when you look at the timeline and what's happened, and you look at how Donald is desperate to hide this story, and how they only started talking with Maxwell once Trump looked extra super duper screwed on this matter, it really indicates, guys, that she has something. She either has something on Trump or she has something on someone else that could be beneficial to Trump. And anything she says with regard to Trump, guys, we just have to assume that there's a motive there. And the motive might not be honesty.